what contents of the second volume that's coming out. And you do have some very characters we don't usually hear from, like Ehud and Asaph and let's see, the Samaritan woman and Stephen and Barnabas. Some of those are kind of smaller names, and it's kind of neat to take those characters that don't always get the red banner service like many of the characters in the first book did, like, Abraham, Isaac. We know these characters, but these are kind of what made you choose these side characters in a sense, even though they're not.
Yeah, for sure. And if you see me looking off to the side, I've just got my list here on another computer. But I was just really excited again to explore some of these people that are just as important, right? But maybe don't get all the airtime. And I think to me that almost speaks to this book just as much as the original, in that, like, sometimes I feel like we can't relate to David, right? Of course, he started off as a young shepherd, unknown, overlooked for the kingship, all these things, but he rose to great prominence. He killed a giant. Kids might be thinking, well, that's great, but I don't see myself ever doing that. So we can relate in some ways to some of these bigger Bible characters, or the guy, Moses parting the Red Sea, just incredible things. But then there's all the everyday folks too that don't often get mentioned. I'm just looking at my list here, like Habakkuk. I mean, I barely know how to spell his name. He's a prophet, right? God gave him a specific message at a very important time in Israel. Who is this guy? He's obviously important because he's in the Bible. Let's talk about him. Or Ehud, one of my favorites, the left-handed warrior who sticks a dagger inside the very large and in charge Moabite king's gut. And, well, I'll just say that you have to have guts to read the rest of the story.
I think I remember that from our interview talking about the Go Bible, that was one of your favorites.
Yeah.
So when I saw it on the list, I was like, yes. Okay, of course, Ehud's on here.
That's the Ehud, yep, exactly.
Too fun. But it is neat to kind of look through the Bible and look at names that don't always get, like you said, the red banner, red carpet service. But every name is important. I remember writing an article on Asaph, who you have on this list. And there's 3 different Asaphs throughout the entire Bible, but each one had a part to play in God's story. And some of them got 2 verses, some of them got 20, but they all had importance to God. And I think that is an amazing message to tell our kids that, we don't have to be the missionary going, far off to Nowheresville to preach the gospel. We can just be in our home doing the right thing, or be a mom and serve your family well. And to every act that we do is a service to God, and he sees that. I love how you took these smaller characters to show kids that they can be seen in their small actions just as much as their big ones.
Yeah, and speaking of Asaph, since you mentioned him, here's a guy who was basically the worship leader of all of Israel, right? He was in charge of the temple service, so he's a big in front character. And again, maybe some kids are like, I can't relate to that because he's big, he's in charge, he's important, he's in front of all these people. Psalm 73 he wrote, and I think I have a devotion on it in this book, where he cries out to God and said, why do the wicked prosper? I'm in danger of losing my faith. I see all these people around me, they're rich, they eat well, they're happy, but they don't care about you at all, God. Is there any point for me continuing my faith? Does it really matter how I live? Does faith really matter? And of course, he comes to the conclusion, entering the temple,